Hello and a very good afternoon. It's Thursday, still sunny, a little bit chilly. Mustn't complain. So right at the top of the show, I am really chuffed to say Brian May and Kerry Ellis join me in the studio to talk about their latest album, Golden Days. How significant that Brian May should be on a Thursday, which is the barking hour. We often talk about him, Anna Webb and myself. In fact, both of us have run after him. I've just reminded him of this fact all the way down Marylebone High Street. And I think he wrote his email address down on, I don't know, some dog pamphlet that Anna Webb had. I know we've wanted him to come on the barking hour for quite some time, so it's fitting that he's going to be on today, the day that we have the barking hour. But he's actually going to be talking about his new album with the wonderful Kerry Ellis. And I know lots of you West End fans. She's often known as the First Lady of the West End. Probably most people who've ever seen Wicked will have seen her in the original. And then, of course, in We Will Rock You, where she played Meat. So she's going to be in talking about their album, which is Golden Days. We will play the title track on their way out. But first of all,
she keeps always yonder.
Inevitable, really, wasn't it? Oh, gosh, we're already... I better come clean and say we're just gossiping in here, actually, to the background of Killer Queen and Queen, and how fitting, really, because I am joined in the studio by, well, he's probably best known as the lead guitarist of Queen, Brian May, also a big animal rights campaigner, space enthusiast, and has an asteroid named after him. Kerry Ellis, who's been on the barking hour before, is widely recognised as literally being the First Lady of the West End, starring in Wicked, We Will Rock You, Miss Saigon, plus many others. Both of them superstars in their own right. The long-standing friends have now come together with a second studio album. It's called Golden Days. And here to talk about it, Brian and Kerry, thank you for coming in.
Hey,
hello.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, my goodness me. Well, let's just tell everyone how you met. You met Kerry, because you had to audition in front of Brian, didn't you, for We Will Rock You, is that right?
Yeah, a long time ago now. But yeah, I had to sing one of Brian's songs for him in audition, which was No One But You. And yeah, that was a long time ago, but I actually have good memories of it. I mean, people say, weren't you daunted, weren't you terrified? And actually, I felt privileged and honoured to just have that experience and have that opportunity, so...
And I've only just met you, Brian, but everything that you stand for, you're a nice, kind person. So you wouldn't have said next or shout it out. You would have given everyone their time, I would have thought, anyway, whilst they're auditioning.
Well, I knew who Kerry was anyway at that point. And in fact, I'd invited her to come along and audition. And actually, she didn't know it, but she got the part instantly because everyone
Wish you'd have told me.
Well, yeah, I guess we had to go through the process. We were very new to it. We'd never done it before, but we were all blown away with what Kerry did. But you still have to go through the process, of course. You've got to see everybody. And yeah, that was the first time we'd ever done anything like that. And I thought, well, you know.
Do you know, I was working at another radio station when We Rock You came out, and I remember all the scepticism over that. People going, what on earth do they... Because we'd never had shows like that before.
That's right.
And do you remember that? People were really judgmental.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we got torn apart. I mean, worse than anyone ever, probably. Except possibly Miserable. I think they got similar...
They went through the same thing.
The irony, and they're still running 30 years on.
Yeah, but 12 years later, we were still there, you know. Yeah, there was a lot of prejudice in a way. I don't know. Maybe it's like, you know, how dare these people come in and think they can do musical theatre when they've never done it before, you know. But, you know, you approach everything with an open mind. And we had a great team. We had a team that was exactly half rock and roll and half musical theatre. And lots of fights, you know, lots of discussion. But in the end, we were a very strong team, and we came up with something which in the end was new.
Yes.
And has influenced all the stuff that's come after, which makes me happy.
Of course it has. Of course it has. It really was. It was a trailblazer. And it ran itself for years as well.
Yeah.
So, tell me about this album. It's been so well reviewed. Is Amazing Grace on this album? Because I read a review where the journalist said they just cried just listening to it, that your version is possibly the best. Now, there's a lot to compare to, isn't there? How did you choose what tracks you were going to put on?
a lot of them just got there because of circumstances. Amazing Grace is a good example because it was chosen by my lovely CEO of Save Me, who saves thousands of animals every year. And she put together a campaign for hedgehogs around this one particular hedgehog who we thought was going to die for sure, who was called Grace. We always give them names. And she pulled through, and we said, gosh, what an amazing Grace, you know. And Anne said, OK, well, you can just do us a version of the song, can't you? And we'll use that for the campaign. I went, no, I don't think we can. And then I mentioned it to Kerry, and she went, yeah, we could. And literally we sat down that afternoon and did it. And that was one of those things which happened quickly. So these things come to us, and we kind of do.
And I love now, when people get the album, they'll know the significance of Grace, which you probably did not know before that, of the namesake, being the hedgehog as well. Is Born Free on this album as well?
Yes, a similar thing, you know.
See, that was, it was inevitable you were going to include that, wasn't it?
Absolutely, because of Virginia McKenna, who brought us into her fold. Yes, and we both went out saving lions in Africa, which is an amazing thing.
Lucky thing.
Oh, it was amazing.
Incredible, yeah.
It was so incredible.
And we sang to Virginia in the jungle, didn't we? Just the two of us, which is a unforgettable experience. So we had to do Born Free, obviously. And to me, I love when stuff comes and you have a challenge, because we couldn't do it like Matt Monro, obviously, much though we love Matt. You know, it had to be big and different and epic and in the times. And so I did this huge arrangement for it, which Kerry completely comes in and slaughters, because she's that kind of a singer, you know. And Don Black, who wrote the original lyric, actually wrote us a few extra words for it to bring it up to date. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to take on board the fact you sang this in front of Virginia McKenna in front of lions.
I know, it was mental.
I mean, I always say with my life, some bizarre things have happened, and I always think, I'm never ever going to forget this, but I can't compare with that. That is just extraordinary. Just tell me, did you see lions when you were there?
Yes, we helped to move some, to relocate some who were in a place where they'd been rescued, but they weren't very comfortable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we moved one. We moved definitely one.
Yeah.
It was huge, and you know, they had to tranquilise it, and then we had to put it in a big lorry and move it to a much better, bigger, massive enclosure. And it was just to actually be that close and be actually, you know, put your hand right next to a paw of a lion. You realise how magical they are, and how privileged, and how almost you shouldn't even be in that environment.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
But how privileged we were to kind of experience that, and it gives you a total new view on wild animals.
Were you?
Really
I mean,
does.
we all know Brian's love of animals. Were you always like that, Kerry, or has he sort of?
Well, I
led
always
you
was. Yeah, I mean, I always had a love for animals anyway, but I didn't have the understanding or the knowledge at all until we started working with Virginia, and she's just one incredible woman. If you ever have her on the show,
I'd do anything to.
She's mesmerising.
She's amazing.
She really is. And then Brian, obviously, with his wildlife in the UK and you know, closer to home with the foxes and the badgers and the hedgehogs, you know, it's really opened my eyes. So the older I've got, the more educated I've got about animals, and I kind of just try and pass it on when I can. And
you're, without me patronising you, young to get to this place, because I'm going to just, you know, I said to you both, well, you've been on my barking hour, Kerry, but when I can, you know, you have to tread very carefully, because I can easily be labelled that mad dog woman, which I know a lot of London call me, actually. But others get it. Do you know what I mean? And you, because of who you are, Brian, you were known as being a rock star, first of all. So when you're someone really cool, and then you start to say, hang on, are you just watching what's happening to badgers? Are you watching what's happening to hedgehogs and our wildlife? You do have more kudos. I'm right, aren't I?
You do. You're awesome. I make enemies too. Absolutely. You know, a lot of people think I come from the point of view of kind of not caring about farmers, which is not true.
No,
because I'm working with farmers.
Yes.
But you get kind of you put your head up, and a lot of people say you're great, and a lot of people say you're crap. You know, you have to have broad shoulders for that.
Yes. Sorry, I have to apologise for that word, but I think we all get the gist. No, but I listen. I think we get the gist of it. But it's. Did that come to? Were you like that in your rock days when we were all just absolutely blown away by you and Queen? Were you like that, or has it come to you later in life?
I was always like that, but like Kerry, you know, it's a journey, and you don't know what to do. You know, I didn't know what to do about it and I was too busy. You know, you are at that point in your life. And I guess I promised myself that if I did get the opportunity and I got the time, then I would try to make a difference for animals, because I was aware that we're abusing them the whole time, and we still are, of course.
Yes. We did a whole phone-in yesterday, you won't believe this, because it's always a risk, on birds in London. A guy who's brought out this wonderful book about birdsong and how it's all changing in London, and the same thing. I mean, it was quite optimistic, because he was saying, we've lost a lot of the sparrows and everything, but there are other birds, due to global warming, really, that are lingering in London. So, but the phones went crazy. And someone actually phoned up and went, thank you so much that you're doing this, because that's real local radio, that you don't often hear of now. And just a phone-in on what birds are in your garden, we could have gone on for hours.
That's great.
Which is really comforting, isn't it?
I think what I've noticed personally is so many people are on your side out there, especially with things like social media. You only have to post, for instance, when we did Amazing Grace, and so many people are like, hedgehogs, oh my God, I love hedgehogs. What can I do? How can I help them? And it's amazing how many people do want to help and just don't know. So I think it's just about educating people when you can, if you have a bit of knowledge.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Can I also say, Kerry, it's like you come in with your water. It is amazing when we had two people in from 42nd Street at the beginning of the week, and they came in. They must have sunk 2 litres of water during the whole because but it does work. Because back me up on this, Brian. Your voice, and I can hear. See, I've got a totally damaged voice from smoking Marlboro for most of my life, which I've stopped. No, but I've given up. But look at the legacy, yeah.
Good for you.
Oh, gosh. For me, that was the biggest decision I ever made. Bigger than my divorce, giving up smoking.
Wow, good on you.
But your speaking voice is still really clear in your singing voice. And you... Oh, no, you've got the lungs of Peggy Mount, hasn't she? I mean, she can just belt it out.
Kerry is made of steel. I don't know.
Were you taught? So don't tell me you've never had a singing lesson. Have you?
I have had a few lessons.
A few?
I mean, I did go to a theatre college, so I did have a few early on. But I think it's more about respecting your body. Exactly what you've just said about just looking after yourself. Make sure I don't smoke. I don't drink that much. I try and drink loads of water. I try and look after myself, because it's just like anything else. It's a muscle. And Brian's recently changed his regime and starts exercising in the morning. I think it's just about changing the way you are.
Well,
being healthy.
It's another of those journeys. I'm the same. I never used to exercise the first 50 years of my life. Nothing. And now,
but think how much adrenaline you would have spent on stage. That would have been like running a marathon.
Well, I did that, yeah.
Yeah.
But you meditate now in the morning, don't you?
I do that as well. It's a whole regime. It's changed my life a lot, because I was struggling. Everybody goes, "Oh, you had a fabulous life. How could you possibly get depressed?" But everybody's a human being. Everybody feels what's closest to them, and the exercise helped, and the meditation's been great. I have this little app called Headspace, and I do it every morning without fail. Yeah, and if I don't do it, I suffer. I am
so impressed because I do a lot of yoga, and that's
love yoga.
I absolutely love it, and it's meditation. Even though you don't know, you're concentrating, aren't you?
Absolutely, it's a form of mindfulness, which is great. Yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's great.
Do you think? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but when I read about this album and the subject matter, and that that you've actually done it as well with Kerry, do you think Freddie would have been really proud of this? Because it is a theatrical amalgamation as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think about Freddie a lot. I mean, every day. It's like he's around, really, and I can always tell what he would have said, I think. And, I think he would have loved it, really. Freddie had a very subtle way of putting his emotions into songs, and I often think about that. And I think even I didn't realise what he was on about sometimes, because we didn't talk to each other about the meaning of the songs until very late on. The last couple of years we did. But normally it was sort of like a taboo subject. You put what you can into the song. And now I go back to some of Freddie's early songs and I get it a lot more than I used to. Yeah. So, I mean, I put my heart into the songs. And sometimes it's hard because you put too much in, it can be embarrassing. There's a song in there called It's Gonna Be All Right, which is all about panic attacks. Now, that's a fairly revealing thing to talk about,
Yes.
But I was hoping, and I think it's the last thing we put on the album, wasn't it? I brought it back from tour. But it was kind of real-life experience. I was writing it from the point of view of somebody who was in there. And I was hoping that people would hear the song and find some kind of help. So it's a song which you have to be very open in your songwriting to connect in that way, I suppose. And
Tell me the name of that track again.
It's called "It's Gonna Be All Right."
Right, so I'll play
half
that.
the song is about how awful it is to be in this panic attack, and then half of it is about how you're going to get out, and it is going to be okay.
So I'm going to play that later on in the show. We are going to play, though, now the title track, which is "Golden Days." Kerry, wouldn't you have loved to have met Freddie?
You know, it's one of the not deep regrets, because it wasn't on my radar. You know, I was young, but now obviously I've known Brian for so long, and obviously they're on tour again now. I have seen them obviously in the last few years, but I do wish, because obviously we've talked about Freddie and about their times and about how they recorded, and there's so much history there that I just wish I had got.
They'd have got on, wouldn't they, Brian? Don't you think?
For sure, yeah. Freddie would have loved Kerry.
Yeah,
no doubt about
it was right. It's right that you're both doing this together, I think. Could I just ask finally, Brian, what did you think of Carousel? I was on the dress circle above you, and we saw you walk in, and I went, "There's Brian May. He's on my show later."
Well, you know, I'm an addict. I love Rodgers and Hammerstein. You know, more and more as I grow older, I kind of worship those guys. You know? And I think "If I Loved You" is possibly the best song ever written in the whole universe.
Have you ever sung it, Kerry?
Well, it's on our album.
Oh my goodness.
Strangely enough,
I'll play that as well. Right, this whole afternoon we're going to... Oh, my
it's
goodness.
It's a very different narration, but I love it. And I cried. You know?
Yeah,
and
did you?
I'd forgotten how much I was affected by the show. You can't possibly look at that and listen to that. And the orchestra, the sound of the orchestra was stupendous.
And can I just say how lovely they raised them up, because I don't know about you, I feel so sorry for London orchestras now, who are often hidden behind the stage. You don't even see them. Well, you know that. You know, they were raised up.
Absolutely, because it is about the orchestra. I think we made a difference to that as well, because it wasn't normal when We Were Rock You started. When we came along, they said, no, the orchestra doesn't take a bow. You know, they're just in the pit. You know, and we said, well, in our show they do, because they're a big part. So we brought them on every night at the end, along with the conductor, you know. And I think we influenced a lot of people by doing that. Nowadays, you see a show, and the band are given their respect. And certainly in this show, they were, you know, that you can see them the whole time, and they took their bow. They got an enormous ovation, didn't they?
Oh, my goodness.
And so they should.
What
Wonderful.
a melancholy show. My goodness, it sets you thinking, doesn't it? It's just... Oh, right. So I'm going to play a lot of this album this afternoon. We're going to now play Golden Days. Just tell us a little bit about this track.
Oh, goes back a very, very long way. When I wrote it for a lady called Minako Honda, little Japanese star, who, strange enough, traversed a similar route to Kerry. She was in musicals, including Les Miserables.
Miss Saigon.
Miss Saigon, beg your pardon, Miss Saigon.
Close, same writers.
Yeah, same writers. But I wrote it for her, and it was quite a quick job, I suppose, and I was young, and it was a kind of melancholy thing, a wistful thing. And I listened to it and I played it to Kerry and she liked it. And I thought, well, that song was really never finished. It doesn't really have a journey. It doesn't have an end point. So we do stuff together in the studio, and I'm directly inspired by the way Kerry sings stuff. So I managed to think of a way to just make it resolve. And now it's not just about being wistful for the old days. It's about what happens now. And we redid the whole track. And I think it suited Kerry down to the ground. I was just enchanted by how she sounded.
You can't hear this. I'm running it underneath all of us now. So you describing it is just added so much. In fact, a lot of people now, when you get the album, you'll know a little bit more about the choice of tracks, why they were chosen and what they were standing for. The album's out now.
Yep.
Indeed.
And it's called Golden Days. This is the title track. Brian May, Kerry Ellis. What a wonderful duo. Thank you so much for coming in, both of you.
Thank you very much.
What a wonderful couple. As I say, I met Kerry Ellis before. She's been on the Barking Hour talking about her two Jack Russells, one of whom she's lost, but I didn't want to go into that because it's awful when people talk about losing a dog. And Brian May, who I've longed to meet, everything I wanted him to be and more. And the album is called Golden Days. Paul Frewer, who's emailed in, said, we saw Brian play Born Free in front of Don Black at a tribute night for Don, says Julie in Woodford. It was wonderful. Thank you, Julie. Right, it is just coming up to 1:30. Time to catch up with the news headlines.